The wedding hall glowed with warm lights. Music floated through the room. Laughter bounced from table to table. For the first time in a very long time, Clara felt something she had almost forgotten. Peace. Not complete peace. Not perfect peace. Just enough peace to breathe. Ella and Daniel were dancing. The guests were cheering. Daniel looked like a man who had won a lottery he never expected to win. Ella looked like a woman who had finally stopped preparing for disappointment. Clara stood near the dance floor, adjusting the bride's train for the 10th time. Chief bridesmaid. She turned. Ella was laughing. Come here. What happened now? My veil. You have 2 hands. I am a bride. So, I have officially retired from solving my own problems. Clara shook her head. You've been married for 30 minutes. And I am already enjoying the benefits. The 2 women laughed. A photographer rushed toward them. Please, one more picture. No, Clara said immediately. Yes, Ella replied at the same time. The photographer pointed. Stand together. Before Clara could protest, Ella grabbed her arm. The flash clicked. Again. And again. Then another. The photographer smiled. Perfect. Clara groaned. I'm going to end up in your wedding album forever. Exactly. That is a threat. It is a promise. More laughter. For a moment, everything felt light. Normal. Human. Then Clara noticed 2 women whispering near one of the tables. One of them looked directly at her. The other nodded. Clara knew that look. Everybody knew that look. Recognition. The wedding video. The police station. The headlines. The scandal. She looked away. The joy around her dimmed slightly. Not enough to disappear. Just enough to remind her. Some mistakes leave fingerprints on your future. A voice interrupted her thoughts. You disappeared. She turned. Alexander. The man from earlier. He held a glass of juice. Not wine. Not champagne. Juice. For some reason, that detail made him seem more real. You found another free chair? Clara asked. He smiled. I found the same chair. I thought wedding guests were supposed to dance. I already danced. Really? No. She laughed. At least you're honest. I try. Silence settled between them. Comfortable silence. Not awkward. Not forced. Just quiet. Alexander looked toward the dance floor. Your friend looks happy. She is. And you? Clara looked at him carefully. Most people asked questions because they wanted gossip. Alexander sounded different, like he actually wanted an answer. I'm getting there. He nodded. Fair answer. Another pause. Then he said something unexpected. You know, most people spend too much time becoming one thing. What thing? The worst thing they ever did. Clara froze. There it was. The wedding video. The story. The headline. Alexander noticed her expression. I'm sorry. No. She exhaled. It's okay. I wasn't trying to reopen wounds. I know. His voice remained calm. I only mean that people can become trapped inside one chapter. Clara stared at the dance floor. Sometimes they deserve it. Maybe. His answer surprised her. Not because he agreed. Because he didn't rush to comfort her. He continued. But a prison and a lesson are not the same thing. The music continued. Guests cheered. Someone shouted for more jollof rice. Life moved around them. Yet Clara found herself thinking about that sentence. A prison and a lesson are not the same thing. She wasn't sure why. Maybe because nobody had said it before. Most people chose one extreme. Either she was a victim, or she was a criminal. Alexander seemed to believe she was simply human, and somehow that felt harder to accept. The following week returned her to reality. Work, traffic, repayments, responsibilities, life. Sent by Grace opened at 9. Clara arrived at 8:30. As usual, Aisha was already arranging displays. Good morning. Morning. You look happy. I am. Aisha narrowed her eyes. Wedding happiness? Maybe. You met somebody? No. That means yes. Clara rolled her eyes. I met a human being. Male human being. Aisha. I'm just saying. Madam Grace walked out from the office. No gossip before opening. Sorry, Ma. Madam Grace looked at Clara. Customer feedback report. Finished. Stock sheet. Finished. Repayment receipt? Clara immediately produced an envelope. Madam Grace opened it. Inside was proof of another payment to Madam Patricia. 100,000 naira. Not much, but honest. Madam Grace nodded. Good. Clara smiled. Every month the debt became smaller. Every month she could breathe a little easier. The road was still long, but it finally had direction. 3 days later, the shop bell chimed. Clara looked up and nearly dropped the perfume box in her hand. Alexander, standing inside the store, looking around, calm as ever. Aisha immediately noticed. Her eyes widened. Then she looked at Clara, then at Alexander, then back at Clara. The smile that appeared on her face was dangerous. Very dangerous. Customer, she announced dramatically. I can see that. Special customer. Aisha. Alexander approached. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I didn't know you worked here. I didn't know you shopped here. Fair. He looked around. This place smells expensive. It is. He laughed. I need help. With perfume. Hopefully. What kind? A gift. For who? My mother. Brave man. Why? Buying perfume for women is dangerous. Alexander nodded. I suspected as much. For the next 15 minutes, Clara guided him through different fragrances. He listened carefully, asked questions, actually listened to the answers. That alone made him different. Most customers already knew what they wanted. They only wanted confirmation. Alexander seemed genuinely interested. Eventually, he selected one. Clara packaged it. He paid. Then neither of them moved. Aisha watched from across the store like someone observing a football match. Alexander cleared his throat. Would it be inappropriate if I asked you to have coffee sometime? Clara's heart stumbled. Just slightly. Just enough. The old fear appeared immediately. Fear always arrived first these days. Before hope. Before excitement. Before possibility. Fear. She remembered Emeka. The sacrifices. The lies. The humiliation. The police station. The wedding arrest. The headlines. Everything. Alexander seemed to sense the hesitation. You can say no. Clara looked at him, then at the packaged perfume, then back at him. I don't know. His expression remained calm. That's an honest answer. I haven't been very good at trusting people lately. That makes sense. No pressure. No persuasion. No emotional manipulation. Just understanding. And somehow that made the answer harder. Can I think about it? Alexander smiled. Of course. Then he took a business card from his wallet, placed it on the counter. No pressure. He turned, walked away, and left. Aisha appeared instantly, like a spirit. Clara Benson. No. Clara Benson. No. That man likes you. Aisha. That man definitely likes you. Madam Grace emerged from her office. What happened? Aisha pointed dramatically. Romance happened. Madam Grace sighed. I regret hiring both of you. That evening, Clara sat alone in her apartment. The business card rested on the table. Alexander King. Simple. Clean. Professional. No dramatic quote. No motivational slogan. Just a name. She stared at it, then looked away, then stared again. The problem wasn't Alexander. The problem was what came before him. Trust once broken becomes expensive. And Clara had paid heavily. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered. Hello. Silence. Then a familiar voice. Clara. Everything inside her tightened. Emeka. She closed her eyes. Slowly. What do you want? His voice sounded different. Softer. Tired. I'm back in Nigeria. The room became very quiet. I know. You saw. People talk. A pause. Then. We need to meet. No. Clara. No. Please. She laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it wasn't. Please. Yes. You learned that word? Clara?
No.
Silence. Then he spoke again. I owe you an explanation. You owe me much more than that. His voice cracked slightly. I know. For a moment neither spoke. Then Clara said the words she had carried for months. Do you know what hurts most? Another silence.
No.
I would have forgiven poverty. Emeka said nothing. I would have forgiven struggle. Still nothing. I would have forgiven failure. Her voice trembled. But you made me feel foolish for loving you. The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, I'm sorry. The words landed softly. Too softly. Too late. Clara closed her eyes. I have work tomorrow. Can we meet once?
No.
Clara. Goodbye, Emeka. She ended the call, then sat alone in the darkness. Breathing. Just breathing. Because sometimes survival looked exactly like that. 3 days later, the unexpected happened. Madame Patricia called. Clara nearly panicked. Immediately. Always. Good afternoon, Ma. Good afternoon. Her voice sounded different. Less angry. Less sharp. Not warm. But different. I received the latest payment. Yes, Ma. A pause. Then, you have been consistent. Clara swallowed. Yes, Ma. Another pause. I respect that. The words shocked her. More than they should have. Because respect had become rare. Especially from people she had disappointed. Madame Patricia continued. I heard you were working again. Yes, Ma. Good. Silence. Then something Clara never expected. Keep going. The line disconnected. Clara stared at her phone. Emotion tightened her chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of something. Maybe. The next week brought another surprise. A large black SUV stopped outside, sent by Grace. A man entered. Expensive suit. Confident posture. The kind of confidence money often rented. Clara recognized him instantly.
Stanley.
One of Emeka's London friends. The same Stanley from the shopping videos. The same Stanley who had watched everything happen. His eyes found her immediately. Clara. The shop suddenly felt smaller. Good afternoon. We need to talk. Clara stiffened. I'm working. It concerns Emeka.
She almost said no.
Almost. Then something in Stanley's face stopped her.
Concern.
Real concern. Not gossip. Not curiosity.
Concern.
Madame Grace appeared from nowhere. Like all wise business owners. What is happening? Stanley introduced himself. Explained briefly. Madame Grace studied him. Then Clara. Then him again. 15 minutes. Thank you. Outside, under the afternoon sun, Stanley sighed heavily. I should have spoken earlier. What happened? He looked genuinely uncomfortable. Then he said, the money Emeka used in London wasn't only your money. Clara frowned. What does that mean? Stanley looked away. He borrowed more. From who? Too many people. A knot formed in Clara's stomach. Stanley. He has debt. How much? Stanley hesitated, then answered. A lot. Clara stared at him. You mean all that shopping? Was partly pretending. The words landed heavily. Stanley continued. The jackets. The dinners. The videos. The lifestyle. A lot of it was borrowed image. Clara felt something strange. Not satisfaction. Not anger. Something else. Sadness. Because suddenly the picture became clearer. Emeka hadn't become successful. He had become desperate. Trying to look successful. Trying to prove something. Trying to outrun insecurity. And destroying everything in the process. Why are you telling me this? Stanley sighed. Because he plans to ask you for help again. Clara froze. What? He thinks if you both talk. Stanley shook his head. He still doesn't understand what he did. The realization hurt. Not because she loved him. Because she finally didn't. And seeing the truth felt strangely painful. The dream was dead. Completely dead. And dreams deserve mourning too. Stanley looked at her carefully. Don't save him again. Clara laughed softly. A tired laugh. The old Clara might have. And the new Clara? She looked toward the shop, toward work, toward repayment plans, toward consequences, toward rebuilding. The new Clara is still learning. Stanley nodded. Good. Then he smiled slightly. For what it's worth, you deserved better. For the first time in a long time, Clara believed it. Not fully, not completely, but enough. Enough to matter. That evening she returned home.
Exhausted.
Thoughtful.
Changed.
The business card still sat inside her drawer. Alexander King.
She stared at it for a long moment.
Then finally picked up her phone. Her fingers hovered over the number. Fear arrived first. As usual. But this time something else arrived too.
Hope.
Small. Fragile.
Alive.
And for the first time since the wedding arrest, Clara allowed herself to wonder whether her future might become bigger than her worst mistake. She typed a message, then paused, then smiled, and pressed send. The message remained on Clara's screen for exactly 12 seconds before she nearly deleted it. Too late. It had already been sent. Hello, Alexander. This is Clara from Sent by Grace. I finally decided to stop overthinking. Coffee sounds okay. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then his reply arrived. Almost immediately. I was beginning to think the card had become a bookmark. Coffee this Saturday? A smile escaped before Clara could stop it. She hated that. Not because she disliked smiling. Because it felt unfamiliar. Like wearing shoes she had not touched in years. She typed back. Saturday is fine. A few seconds later another message appeared.
Great.
And Clara? Thank you for taking the risk. She stared at the words. The risk. Funny. Most people thought coffee was coffee. A conversation was a conversation. A phone number was a phone number. But after enough disappointment, ordinary things became acts of courage. Saturday arrived with Lagos traffic and nervous energy. Clara changed clothes 3 times. Then 4. Then 5. Ella watched through a video call. You are behaving like somebody attending a visa interview. It's not a date. Okay. It's coffee. Okay. One conversation. Okay. Clara narrowed her eyes. You are annoying. Ella laughed. You like him. I don't know him. You like the possibility. Clara paused. That answer felt closer to the truth. Maybe. Just go. What if it becomes awkward? Then drink your coffee and leave. What if he disappoints me? Ella's smile softened. What if he doesn't? Silence. Then Clara sighed. You always do that. Do what? Say reasonable things. It's my burden. The cafe overlooked a quiet section of Victoria Island. Not too crowded. Not too loud. Just enough life. Alexander was already there. Reading. Actually reading. A physical book. Not scrolling. Not pretending. Reading. He looked up when she approached. A smile appeared. Not exaggerated. Not rehearsed. Real. You came. I considered escaping. Traffic or fear? Both. He laughed. Fair. She sat. A waiter arrived. Orders were made. Small talk followed. Weather. Traffic. Work. Normal things. Simple things. And somehow Clara appreciated that. No dramatic questions. No emotional excavation. No attempt to become important too quickly. Just conversation. Then Alexander asked, How is work? Good. You enjoy it? More than I expected. That's good. She nodded, then smiled slightly. I think Madam Grace scares me enough to stay productive. Alexander laughed. Every workplace needs one person like that. The conversation flowed naturally. Hours passed faster than Clara expected. Eventually Alexander leaned back. Can I ask something? Clara hesitated, then nodded. You can refuse to answer. Okay. What do you want now? She blinked. What kind of question is that? A real one. Not what happened before. Not what people expect. Not what you owe. What do you actually want? The question caught her off guard. Because she didn't know. For years her life had revolved around survival. Helping Emeka. Managing family expectations. Fixing disasters. Paying debt. Surviving shame. Wanting had become a luxury. She looked out the window, thinking, then answered honestly, I want peace. Alexander nodded. That's reasonable. I want to finish paying Madame Patricia. Also reasonable. She smiled. And I want a life that doesn't feel like punishment. Something changed in Alexander's eyes. Not pity. Understanding. That one is important. Clara looked at him. What about you? He laughed softly. Now you're interviewing me. Answer. He considered, then spoke. I want a family. The honesty surprised her. No hesitation. No performance. No pretending to be mysterious. Just truth. I want meaningful work. He continued, and I want to become the kind of man my future children won't need therapy because of. Clara burst out laughing, so loudly that nearby customers looked over. Alexander laughed too. I am serious. I know. The laughter continued, and for the first time in a very long time, Clara forgot to be afraid. The following weeks passed quickly. Work, repayments, friendship, coffee meetings, phone calls, life. Nothing dramatic, nothing extraordinary, which was exactly why Clara liked it. Alexander didn't rush, didn't pressure, didn't perform. He simply appeared consistently. And consistency had become more attractive than charm. One afternoon, Aisha cornered Clara near the stockroom. So what? How many coffee meetings now? Clara ignored her. 5. Aisha gasped. 5. You counted. I am a professional observer. You need a hobby. This is my hobby. Clara laughed despite herself. Madame Grace appeared. Immediately Aisha became busy. Very busy. Suddenly interested in inventory. Madame Grace watched her leave. Then looked at Clara. The man. Clara nearly choked. What man? The one who buys perfume but spends more time talking. Heat climbed into Clara's face. Madame Grace smiled slightly. Interesting, because Madame Grace rarely smiled. Be careful. The words surprised Clara, not because they were negative, because they sounded protective. I will. Madame Grace nodded, then added, not fearful, careful, and walked away. Clara stood there thinking about that sentence for the rest of the day. Not fearful, careful. There was a difference, a very important difference. 3 months later, the debt had fallen below 1 million naira. For the first time, below 1 million. Clara stared at the figures on her calculator, then checked again, then again. Aisha found her smiling. Suspicious. Very suspicious. What happened? Clara showed her. Aisha screamed. Customers turned. Madame Grace emerged from her office immediately. What happened? Nothing bad. Aisha pointed at the numbers. Madame Grace examined them, then looked at Clara. A rare smile appeared. Good. That single word carried unexpected weight. Good. Not because the debt was gone, because progress existed, because rebuilding existed, because consequences and hope could exist in the same life. Clara almost cried. Almost. That evening she visited her mother. Mrs. Benson opened the door. Immediately suspicious. Mummy. You look happy. Is happiness illegal? No. Mrs. Benson folded her arms. But it usually means something. Grace appeared from the kitchen carrying her baby. Yes, baby. A beautiful little girl. 3 months old. The first grandchild. The unofficial ruler of the family. See who is here. Clara immediately reached for the child. The baby laughed. Everyone melted. As usual, this girl has power. More than politicians, Grace replied. Dinner followed. Stories. Laughter. Family. Then Mrs. Benson finally asked. So. Clara sighed. Here we go. The man. Grace laughed immediately. Mummy. What? You're not subtle. Mrs. Benson ignored her. Is there a man? Clara hesitated, then nodded. A small one. The room exploded. Grace screamed. The baby laughed. Mrs. Benson started thanking God. Clara buried her face in her hands. It is not serious. Mrs. Benson waved dismissively. That is how every serious thing starts. The next morning brought unexpected trouble. Emeka. Again. Clara arrived at work to find him waiting outside. Her stomach tightened immediately. He looked different. Older. Thinner. Tired. Reality had clearly introduced itself. Clara. She stopped. Not close enough to touch. Not close enough to feel trapped. Just enough. What do you want? His eyes lowered. I wanted to apologize properly. You already did. Not enough.
No. Silence.
Traffic passed. Life continued. Then Emeka spoke quietly. I ruined everything. Clara didn't answer. Because he had. He continued. I kept thinking if I got successful enough, everything would make sense. She listened. Not because she owed him. Because she was finally free enough to hear him. I was ashamed. His voice cracked. You helped me. I should have been grateful. He laughed bitterly. Instead, I became angry. Clara watched him carefully. For the first time, she saw no excuses. No blame. No manipulation. Just regret. Real regret. Too late. But real. I lost myself. He whispered. Then looked at her. I'm sorry. The words lingered between them. Clara breathed slowly. Then answered. I forgive you. Emeka froze.
What?
I forgive you. His eyes filled immediately. Not with victory. With relief. But Clara continued. I forgive you because I want peace. She looked directly at him. Not because I want us back. Reality landed instantly. She saw it happen. The understanding. The finality. The end. Emeka nodded slowly. Painfully. I understand. And for the first time, he actually did. Months passed. Steadily. Quietly. Beautifully. Life stopped feeling like survival. Started feeling like living. One afternoon, Alexander visited sent by Grace again. Aisha practically celebrated. Customer. Hello, Aisha. You came to buy perfume or Clara? Alexander laughed. Both. Good answer. Clara wanted the floor to open. Immediately. Alexander approached, holding an envelope. What is this? Open it later. That sounds suspicious. It isn't. Maybe. Trust issues. Correct. They both smiled. That evening, Clara opened the envelope at home. Inside was a single photograph. From Ella's wedding. The friendship photo. The one she never wanted taken.
Clara. Ella.
Daniel. Laughing. Completely unaware of the camera. Below the photograph was a handwritten note. This is not the woman from the headline. This is the woman I keep getting to know. Alexander. Clara stared at the note. Then at the photograph. Then back at the note. Tears appeared unexpectedly. Not because of romance. Not exactly. Because somebody had seen her. Actually seen her. Not the scandal. Not the mistake. Not the viral video. Her. Just her. And after everything that had happened, that felt like a miracle. Clara sat on the edge of her bed long after midnight. The photograph remained in her hands. The note rested on her lap. The room was quiet. Yet her heart wasn't. For years, Clara had become accustomed to carrying labels. Thief. Scandal. Mistake. Disappointment. Viral bridesmaid. The internet had named her. Strangers had judged her. Even she had judged herself. But Alexander's note had done something dangerous. It reminded her that she was still a person. Not a headline. Not a cautionary tale. A person. And somehow that frightened her more than criticism ever had. Because criticism was familiar. Hope was not. The next morning, Clara arrived at Sent by Grace unusually early. Madame Grace noticed immediately. You are smiling. Clara froze. I am, yes. Aisha looked up from arranging displays. Then narrowed her eyes dramatically. Oh what? Clara asked. Love. It is not love. It has reached the denial stage. Madame Grace sighed. I should increase both your workloads. Aisha grinned. That won't stop love. Neither will unemployment, apparently. Clara laughed despite herself. For the first time in a long time, the laughter came naturally. No effort. No pretending. Just happiness. Small happiness. But real. Business was unusually busy that week. Customers flowed steadily. Sales increased. And Clara continued proving herself. Every sale, every report, every customer interaction. She treated each day like another brick in the house she was rebuilding.
Trust.
One brick at a time. One day at a time. One honest decision at a time. Then Friday afternoon brought unexpected visitors. 2 women entered the store. One looked familiar. Very familiar. Clara's stomach tightened. The woman stopped. Recognition flashed across her face. The same recognition Clara had learned to identify immediately. The wedding video. The scandal. The arrest. There it was again. The woman nudged her friend. Whispered something. Her friend looked. Whispered back. Clara felt her chest tighten. Not again. Not today. The women approached. Clara forced herself to remain professional. Good afternoon, Ma. The older woman looked at her carefully. Then smiled. To Clara's surprise. You are Clara, right? Clara nodded cautiously. Yes, Ma. The woman smiled wider. My daughter showed me your story. Clara braced herself. The judgment, the criticism, the gossip. Instead, the woman said, I wanted to tell you something. Clara blinked.
Ma.
My son made a terrible mistake years ago. The woman's voice softened. He lost everything. She smiled sadly. But he rebuilt. Her eyes held Clara's. You remind me of him. Clara stood speechless. The woman continued. People celebrate success loudly.
She paused.
But rebuilding deserves respect too. The words struck deeply. Unexpectedly deeply. The woman selected 2 perfumes.
Paid.
Then smiled before leaving. Keep going. And just like that, she was gone. Clara stood frozen. Aisha approached slowly. What happened? Clara swallowed. I don't know. But she did know. For months, she had expected judgment. She had become so prepared for criticism that kindness felt shocking. Maybe healing wasn't only about forgiving yourself. Maybe it was also about accepting that other people could forgive you too. Saturday evening. Alexander picked Clara up for dinner. Not a fancy place. Not a luxury restaurant. Just somewhere comfortable. And somehow Clara preferred that. They talked.
Laughed.
Shared stories. Simple things. Important things. Alexander told her about his childhood. Growing up in Surulere. His strict father. His gentle mother. His dream of starting his own company. Clara told him stories about Grace. About Ella. About how her mother could detect problems through the phone. My mother has supernatural abilities. Alexander laughed. All Nigerian mothers do. Honestly. If I sneeze in Lekki, my mother calls from Surulere asking if I'm sick. The laughter continued. Comfortable. Easy. Then Alexander became quiet. Not uncomfortable. Thoughtful. Clara noticed. What happened? He looked at her. Then looked away. Then back again. Like someone making a decision. Can I ask something? You always ask permission first, because some questions matter. Clara nodded. Okay. Alexander leaned forward slightly. Do you think you'll ever trust someone completely again? The question lingered. Heavy. Honest. Dangerous. Clara looked at her glass. Thinking carefully. The old Clara would have answered quickly. The current Clara had learned caution. Finally she spoke. I don't know. Alexander listened. No interruption. No pressure. I think trust is different now. She continued. Before, I trusted people because I loved them. Alexander nodded. And now? Now I trust people when their actions earn it. Silence. Then Alexander smiled. That sounds healthier. Clara laughed softly. More painful too. Probably. Their eyes met. For a moment neither spoke. The air felt different. Not romantic exactly. Not yet. Something quieter. Something deeper. Understanding. 2 months later. Life continued moving. Steadily. Beautifully. One payment after another. The debt kept shrinking. Then one afternoon Clara received a message. A message that made her stare at her phone for almost a full minute. Madam Patricia.
Come to my office tomorrow.
10 a.m. No explanation. No details. Nothing else. Clara immediately panicked. Naturally. Aisha found her staring at the phone. What happened? Madam Patricia. Aisha gasped. What now? I don't know. That's not comforting. It is not comforting for me either. The next morning felt like an examination day. Clara arrived 10 minutes early. Madam Patricia's office looked exactly the same. The same furniture. The same perfume displays. The same memories. Some good. Some terrible.
Her palms felt sweaty.
A secretary opened the door.
She'll see you now.
Clara entered. Madam Patricia sat behind her desk. Professional as always. Sharp as always. She gestured toward a chair. Sit. Clara sat. Immediately nervous. Very nervous. Madam Patricia opened a file. Looked through several papers. Then finally raised her eyes. You've paid consistently. Yes, Ma. You've missed no payment. Yes, Ma. Another pause. Then Madam Patricia slid a document across the table. Clara looked down.
Confused.
Then her eyes widened. The remaining balance.
0.
0. 0. Her breath caught. Ma. Madam Patricia folded her hands. The balance is cleared. Clara blinked repeatedly.
Certain she had misunderstood.
Cleared? Yes. Ma, I don't understand. Madam Patricia nodded. I expected that. Then she opened another file. Someone paid the remainder. The room seemed to tilt. What? 2 weeks ago. Clara stared. Who? Madam Patricia looked directly at her. Alexander King. The world stopped.
Completely. What?
He came here personally. Madam Patricia's voice remained calm. He asked how much remained. Clara couldn't speak. He paid everything. Tears immediately filled her eyes.
No.
Madam Patricia nodded. Yes.
No.
Because that wasn't possible. That wasn't normal. That wasn't.
Why?
Why would someone do that? Madam Patricia answered the question before Clara asked it. He said something. Clara looked up. Madam Patricia's expression softened slightly. Very slightly. He said that everyone deserves the opportunity to stop paying for yesterday. Silence. Complete silence. Clara felt tears slipping down her face. Uncontrolled. Unexpected. Madam Patricia allowed the moment to settle. Then quietly added. I told him the same thing I will tell you. Clara listened. You made a terrible mistake. The words landed honestly. Not cruelly. Honestly. But you have worked harder to correct it than most people ever would. Another pause. Then, I forgive you. Clara broke completely. The tears came. Months of guilt. Months of shame. Months of carrying weight. Suddenly crashing down. Madam Patricia handed her tissues. Awkwardly. As though she wasn't accustomed to emotional moments. Which was probably true. You are crying too much. Clara laughed through tears. Sorry, Ma. You have already cried enough for this mistake. The older woman stood. Walked around the desk. Something Clara never expected. She placed a hand on Clara's shoulder. Briefly.
Gently.
Then said, Go and live your life. Clara left the office crying.
Smiling.
Laughing. Crying again. A complete emotional disaster. She called Ella first. Naturally. Ella screamed so loudly Clara had to move the phone away from her ear. Then Grace cried. Then her mother cried. Then Clara cried again. By evening she was exhausted. Emotionally exhausted. She needed answers. Which was why she found herself standing outside Alexander's office building. Waiting. When he emerged, he looked surprised. Then concerned. Then confused. Then slightly alarmed. Clara? She marched directly toward him. Why? Alexander froze. What? The money. Understanding appeared instantly. Oh. He rubbed the back of his neck. A rare sign of nervousness. Alexander. You found out. Obviously. Silence. Then he sighed. I knew Madam Patricia would eventually tell you. Why? He looked at her quietly. Because some questions deserve truth. Finally he answered. Because you had already paid the real debt. Clara stared. What does that mean? Alexander's voice remained calm. You accepted responsibility. You worked. You sacrificed. You changed. You rebuilt. He smiled softly. The money was the easy part. Tears returned immediately. Very annoying tears. Clara hated them. Alexander. I wasn't trying to rescue you. He continued gently. I was helping remove a chain. The silence between them felt enormous. Then Clara whispered, You should have told me. Maybe. And if I refused, you probably would have. That made her laugh. Because it was true. Completely true. Alexander smiled. I know you, Clara. The words settled somewhere deep inside her. Not the headline. Not the scandal. Not the mistake. Her. Just her. And suddenly Clara realized something. Something that had been growing quietly for months. Trust. Not complete. Not perfect. But real. And perhaps for the first time since everything fell apart, she wasn't afraid of it anymore.